The COs and XOs, among some other officers and at least one chief, have now been brought up on UCMJ charges relating to the collisions with the Fitzgerald and the McCain over in 7th Fleet. This is pretty goddamn big news. I understand watchstanders getting in trouble for negligence. The fact that they brought this all the way up to the higher levels is somewhat surprising. These guys did not get early retirement packages and quietly shipped out, and some junior people, you know, end up taking the blame, more on the criminal side. Negligent homicide is no joke. To be a CO of a ship is a giant responsibility. It's not just, you know, making sure, you know, things work right. You get from port to port, you can fire off your missiles in your aircraft. You know, you are responsible for every life on a boat, a ship, when you're the commanding officer, and the XO also burdens a lot of that responsibility. So what we got here is the Navy taking a huge stance on this kind of criminal negligence. Again, relating back to, as I've talked to in previous videos, lack of sleep. Big one I like to press that I don't get enough, I don't think gets enough play, but definitely also with poor seamanship training, operating on a high tempo, with poorly trained people who aren't getting sleep. It's just, I mean, this is what happens, and when it happens twice in a row, and both of them results in death and a lot of injured people, is, you know, this is what happens, and this is what, you know, maybe we're seeing kind of the death of a bit of a good old boys club here that, you know, traditionally, you know, kind of protects people in those positions. Their careers are over, but yeah, generally they get to kind of walk away from it. They've got retirement packages, they go into exile or whatever, but yeah, this is full on, like, they're, you know, we're looking at some commanders, ship captains, skippers doing brig time. Will they actually see any? That's another question. I don't know. Considering how hardball they're going at this, it's very likely, or very possible at least. If I had to, my normal, what I know how the Navy works, I'd say it's commuted down, but, you know, they're looking at some serious issues here with, you know, what's going to happen to them at court-martial. It's not just going to be a slap on the wrist. But I think it's a good message to send out. It's a good wake-up call, and it's truly holding people accountable for the jobs they do. Passing the buck, sweeping shit under the rug to protect people because they are, you know, they're just an officer and they're in a high position, you know, isn't how things are supposed to work. You know, we are supposed to be held accountable. And military, sometimes it's very uneven with it, I'd say. Sometimes they are, you know, and sometimes, yeah, this shit just kind of disappears and a chief or a junior officer takes, you know, major fall for it. But I'm glad to see it, but I'm really shocked that the news came out this way. It's not what I expected from, you know, this incident in terms of the fallout of, you know, even criminal charges. I expected dismissals and early retirements, essentially. So we'll see where this goes in the future for how the Navy is going to work at sea. I'm, you know, been 2 years out of the game now. I don't know how this is affecting shipboard life. I'm assuming, you know, there's been kind of a slow crawl to kind of change how we're training. And again, want to keep the point on, maybe they're looking at required sleep like the pilots do. The only reason the pilots do that because the Navy does not want to lose, you know, $1 million aircraft because the pilot was sleepy. So they have mandatory sleep time before they get in a ship, or before they get on an aircraft. I don't see why that doesn't apply to a giant ship, which is, you know, this is what happens. We'll see if they ever approach that issue, or whether or not we're just going to end up with, you know, more just training, and we're just going to ignore this whole sleep thing. And as I said in my last video, we just pride ourselves on getting by on a little sleep, and sometimes it's necessary, but on a personal note, no, I mean, you should regulate it just like you do the pilots. I mean, they have a tough job, they have a demanding job. but we have parameters and things set to make sure, you know, lack of sleep is not a problem with them. We're not shooting them full of speed. We're not letting them rely on energy drinks and, you know, all that kind of fun bullshit. You know, the important thing is to address all the problems, including training, including sleep, including how we approach high tempo situations. So hopefully through this tragedy, the Navy does find some ways to improve their processes so shit like this doesn't happen again. That's it for now. I have a pretty interesting video coming up, kind of a sequel to one of my more famous videos. So look forward to that probably pretty damn soon. Kind of want to kick it out while I got it in my head. That's it for the Salty Seaman. Hope you guys are having fun out there. The weather's not affecting too many of you. You know, we're expecting snow here in Georgia, so I might have school tomorrow, I might not. My kid might, I might not. But until then, next time I see you, love you freaks. Salty Seaman's out. Peace.